back at the shop for now. Just been putting together a little provisional tool set because we're going to Patered Auto. Also, you may notice I shaved my face for once. It's getting hot out, so yeah, I don't want to suffer like I did last year. It was way too hot with a beard. So yeah, we got a tool set up. We're about to make an hour trip to Patered Auto. We're getting something special, but before that, let me show you something. Got all our 4A-FE parts, or what remains. I still have the oil pan and the oil pump, some wiring bits and whatnot. But in here, got the block all torn down. I actually got rid of the head because we no longer need it. And this is the crank. Got some exhaust parts. This is a big box of bolts. Just some exhaust bits that I might be able to cut up and use. So let's go back downstairs and show you what else we got. So that's all the stuff I don't need from the 4A-FE. I already got rid of some stuff, but that's more stuff to go to the scrap. I have the pistons and rods separated. And we're actually no longer going to need these pistons because we are going to a 4A-GE head, either a big port or a small port. So we'll talk more about that later, but for now, let's get to Patered Auto. And just like magic, we have a 4A-GE. I think this one is a late big port. Oh, if I can get the thing down there. It's hard to tell because all the paint has come off. But if I see any signs of red, or once we get inside the motor, I'll know for sure. But let's take it out. Okay, so the block's all torn apart. I still have the crank in there because the timing gear's kind of stuck. So I'm just going to leave the crank in there. I don't need it anyways because this is an 8-bolt and we need a 6-bolt. Now thankfully, it turns over very smooth. Oil pan and the windage tray are all here. I don't need any of that. Of course, this mess of parts. The pistons, I'll grab this one. They're in pretty good shape. These look to be late big port, as we can tell by the head. So that means we might be able to reuse all of this. I need to check and compare it to the FE ones, but I'm pretty sure these are going to work. I've just been disassembling the head. I need to clean this up quite a bit. The valves need a good cleaning and set of the valve guides and everything, so I'm just going to spend some time clean up these ports and the chambers and be on my way. Okay, so just been cleaning up the valves. All the exhaust valves are done, and I cleaned up the caps. So now I got to do the intake side. Okay, so I started cleaning up the valve seats, and they were turning out pretty good, but they do take quite a bit of time. The exhaust ports are quite pitted, so there's a lot that needs to be done, and honestly, I could probably clean those up even more if I wanted to. But for now, let's have a little chat about this 4A-GE and what's going on with the Tercel. So I know what this video has probably kind of been a mess because I've just been taking clips of what I've been doing instead of, you know, documenting the full thing. So I thought I'd explain what is actually going on here. So, why do we have a 4A-GE head now and a full 4A-GE when I clearly started this project as a 4A-FE swap? Anyways, it's because a couple things happened with the Tercel after I did that head gasket job. While it did fix the overheating problems, finally, thank God, that was a nightmare. It has a new problem, which is it has a crack in the cylinder head. Now I could just go get another cylinder head, clean that up, put that on, and put another head gasket in it, but you know, I think I should take the opportunity to actually do a proper upgrade this time instead of just putting another cylinder head on it and being content with the engine that's in it. I think it's time to kind of push it and see where we can go. So, with the 4A-FE swap, I wanted to put something in there. And my original plan was fuel injection, just turnkey and go, no screwing around with carburetors. But that is a lot more work. And the big thing with the 4A-FE is that finding a intake manifold that isn't going to be god-awful expensive and has everything I need, like idle control and other things, is kind of hard when you have a longitudinal mounted engine like what goes into the Tercel. I'm not saying it wouldn't work, because people have swapped 4A-FEs and 5A-FEs into these before with great success, but for the relative ease of it and some changes in my plan, I decided to go with a 4A-GE head on the 4A-FE block using the 4A-FE crank, because it's 6-bolt instead of 8-bolt for the flywheel, so I can use my clutch and flywheel. And the other thing was, since I'm using the crank from a 4A-FE, I need to have 42 mil big end crank journals for the rods, and 20 mil little end. I guess I should probably grab the crank and explain. So this is a 4A-GE. This is a late big port 4A-GE rod, and this has the same similarity as the 4A-FE crank, where it's 42 mil big end, 20 mil small end. Early big port and the 3A and whatnot, 18 and 40. Now, I can actually use this rod on the 4A-FE crank, which I'm going to do. I was going to use the 4A-FE rods with small port pistons if the whole engine I got was a early big port, but thankfully I lucked out and got a late big port, which actually has really, really beefy rods. These are beefy. Anyways, yeah, so this engine has saved me a crap ton of money. I don't need to buy pistons, rings, rods. I didn't need to buy rods anyways, but yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that I don't need to get anymore. But the things I do need to get are basic rebuilds, which I have some of the parts. I've got all my bearings and my thrust washers. Those have come in the mail. I still need to get everything else for the rebuild. I was going to go with ARP head studs, but I decided against it because it's not like I'm pushing big power to this, because the big plan is to carburate this, and not in the traditional sense of 4A-GE where you get to Webers or Solexes and whatnot, and an MSD ignition like a 6A or 6AL. I found something interesting out, and that is the distributor from 3A and 4A-Cs will work in a 4A-GE head, but if you put them in as is, they don't quite work right because of the drive gear. I wish I had a distributor to show, but I don't. Anyways, what you do is actually swap the drive gears around. So you put the 4A-GE drive gear from its distributor on the 3AC one, and then you have a vacuum advance, so you can still get a spark advance even on a carbureted setup. And along with that, I'm running bike carbs now. If you've ever seen the build by Driving for Answers, he did I think his was also a late big port. But anyways, he did a bike carb on his, and I think his were CBR 600 carbs and or Suzuki carbs. I forget which one. But it was parts from Dan ST Engineering, and that's what I was going to go with, was the bike carb manifold. I'm going to buy my carburetor separately, and I'm actually thinking of doing CBR 900, like the Fireblade bike carburetors, just because they're a bit cheaper than CBR 600, and they seem to be a bit more available around here, so that should save me a little bit of money. And there's some other parts I need along with that, like a fuel pump. I'm probably going to use the stock fuel filter in the car because it's meant to take carbureted fuel pressures like 3 to 5, so that's no problem. I already have quite a plan drawn out for how I'm going to do the fuel system and everything else, and the vacuum advance and all that. So everything should be relatively easy to do. It's just the biggest thing is costs money to do this regardless, because 4A-GE parts are kind of expensive, but also they're aftermarket parts, so what do you expect? It's going to be expensive. But I think it'd be really cool to do a bicarb setup in a 4A-GE, or a bicarb setup in a Tercel Wagon on a 4A-GE. I think that may have been done before, but regardless, still very cool. So yeah, there's some challenges that we do need to overcome with this, which is mainly cost. For what I have to spend now, and I'm just going to be straight up because I know some car channels don't talk about like costs of builds, but I will say 4A-GEs are expensive. There's no way around it. You can get them, some stuff, like if you know how to look, you can get some deals. Like this whole engine I got for $200, but it was unknown condition. Not a bad deal, but it just means, you know, more work, and I lucked out because this engine didn't have any rust on the inside of it. It was all just exterior weathering. Yeah, so there's parts I need to get. In total, I'm probably looking over $1,000 Canadian dollars to build this, if not more. There's some specialty parts I need from SQ Engineering for the rear water outlet, or water housing I should say, on the 4A-GE head, so I can adapt my heater core to it and whatnot. And it's mainly the aftermarket parts that I need that are going to be costly. Like CBR 900 carbs can range from 250 to 450 Canadian dollars. Just the manifold itself from Dan ST is about 250 US dollars, I think it was. I'd have to check again, which is probably about close to 300 Canadian. I forget how the conversion rate works now because, yeah, anyways, I won't get into that. And there's other parts like a vacuum balance bar. I would like to get a vacuum gauge. And of course, we need to actually, you know, balance the carburetors once they're running. I actually need to buy a 4A-GE distributor because this engine didn't come with one. That is one of the few things that did not come with that I really wanted. So that's another like $100 for a new one. And then there's time. These things do take time. As much as, you know, a video can make things look like it goes by fast, it takes time to properly clean up and build an engine. So there's always that to overcome. And along with that, it takes time to have the cash to do these kind of things. So if you're expecting just a done 4A-GE in the Tercel, this project will still take a few months. I would like to get it done as soon as possible because, again, my engine has some problems still. It has a crack in the head which causes an oil leak. I can run it like that for a little while, but, you know, it's not something I want to deal with on a daily basis for long, so that's why I want to get this 4A-GE done and in the car. So, yeah, that's the plan right now. Maybe in another video I'll completely go through every part that I plan to run, but I might wait on that until I have all the parts in hand so I can really show them off in my own detail or how I want to show them, because you can only get so much out of, you know, the manufacturer's picture of the part that you need. So yeah, it's still going to be a while yet before we have a full engine, but rebuilding the engine is my top priority right now. Putting the aftermarket parts on is my second priority, and then third priority is putting it in the car, obviously. So my plan is to have a fully ready to go 4A-GE mashed together with the FE parts, kind of the hybrid. I was calling this the hybrid motor in a sense because it's both a FE and a GE in some regards. And if you're wondering what happened to some of the 4A-FE parts, the head actually sold for quite a bit, $200, which is what funded this. I still have the pistons, which I'm saving for. I want to do a comparison video between, you know, the 4A-GE and 4A-FE. I should have kept the head around, but yeah, I didn't, because I didn't think it'd do that in time. I still have the rods, obviously, which I was going to use, but I'm thinking for now, for simplicity, I'm just going to use the GE rods, because these are also stronger rods, but they're heavier. That, again, stuff for another video. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much going to do it. Probably in the next part of this build series, you're going to see me getting some stuff like prepped and ready to go. Like, I'll probably still be lapping valves in tomorrow. I'm actually going to take the FE block and the crank to my favorite machine shop and get the block honed and put a new pilot bushing in the crank, because the pilot bushings are really cheap. And if you're wondering what they are, at least for this transmission in the Tercel, I'm not sure how this changes with A-series Toyotas, 6001 bushing. If you go to like a Tractor Supply or something, there it is. It saves you a few bucks, I guess, if you just need to go get one immediately. There's a like a farm and like lawn equipment place in my local area that sells them for like $4 a pop, and they always have them in stock. So yeah, I need to go get one of those, put that in, and yeah. And I also need to get my hands on a second 3AC distributor for testing. I don't need a working one. And also a 3AC oil pan, because we have to use a 3AC oil pan with this. And I'll get it more into that later in another video, but that's just, you know, what you can expect to see from this. But for now, guys, that's going to do it. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.
The motherfucking world is a ghetto, full of magazines, full clips, and heavy metal when the smoke settles. I'm just looking for a big yellow in 6-inch stilettos, Dr. Dre. Hello. Percolating, keep 'em waiting while you sitting there hating. Your bitch is hyperventilating, hoping that we penetrating. You get snating, cause I never been to Satan. But hardcore administrating, gangbang affiliating. MC Winner had you wildin' off a zone and a whole half a gallon. Get the dialing, 911 emergency. You can tell him it's my son, he's hurting me, and he's a felon. On parole for robbery, ain't no copping a plea, ain't no stopping a G. I'm in the 6, you got to hop in the 3. Company monopoly, you handle shit sloppily.